Hello and welcome to Gefet on the Daf. I'm Yael Shimoni, bringing you learning Rashi and Tosfot on your Sugyot in Daf Yomi and taking your learning a little more deeper with the help of the beautiful Rishonim we have on the Daf. So today, in honor of finishing very soon the first chapter of Yevamot, we're going to learn two Diburim Matchim of Tosfot, which are not the classic kind of Tosfotim that we usually learn. These two Tosfotim will be dealing with supernatural things, Agada and Bat Kol and Sar HaOlam. And you should know that Tosfot has a lot to say about Agada, and he takes them very, very seriously. And he also takes things that we view as supernatural in a very serious manner. And he has interesting things to say about them. So this is a special gefet we're doing. And I hope you enjoyed it. It will open up to you another way of learning. As we all know that the Gemara has a lot of Agada in it, and we have to see how can we work with this as well, and where does Tosfot help us also here. So we'll begin with Daf Yudaled. As we know, the end of Masechet Yevamot reveals a very interesting machloket between Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. We know that Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai were cholkim on many things. And usually, we assume that Bet Shammai are the machmirim, Bet Hillel are the matirim. And here we see that in the issue of tzara, Bet Shammai are mekalim, Bet Shammai metirim hatzarot leachim, or Bet Hillel osrim. And actually, we learn from this Mishnah that the whole chapter up till now was only that Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai think that tzarot are mutarot leachim, and this is a very, very serious machloket because it deals with isurei erva, and finishes the Mishnah and says, "Af al pi she'elu osrim, elu matirim, elu poslim, elu machshirim, לא נמנעו בית שמאי מלישא נשים בית הלל, ולא בית הלל מבית שמאי. כל הטהרות והטומאות שהיו אלו מטהרים ואלו מטמאים, לא נמנעו עושים טהרות אלו על גבי אלו." So in two areas, erva of Yevama and taharot, beit hillel and beit shammai are in machloket, and still they live together in harmony, which is the end of this Mishnah. You should know that we will soon see that there is a very, very famous machloket also between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel about taharot, and in these two machlokot, also here in Tzara Ha'ach, and also in the taharot, Bet Hillel are the machmir, Bet Shammai are the mekelim, as we'll see. And here, even though Bet Hillel are machmir, Bet Shammai are mekeli, in taharot and in erva, they can live together. And of course, it's a very interesting question. How could that be? The Gemara continues in Daf Yudal Amud Aleph and tells us that there is a machloket between the Amoraim in understanding how could Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai live together. What is the machloket? It's a double machloket. Amar Reish Lakish, Amar Abai, מסברת עשו בית שמאי כדבריהם, לא עשו בית שמאי כדבריהם, ורבי יוחנן אמר עשו ועשו, ובפלוגתא דרב ושמואל. דרב אומר לא עשו בית שמאי כדבריהם, ושמואל אמר עשו ועשו. We have a machloket between Rav and Shmuel, which is also the machloket between Abai and Rabbi Yochanan, whether or not when Bet Shammai were cholkim of Bet Hillel in Erva, did they actually do what they thought was right? Let's explain it again. Maybe it's only a theoretical question. Maybe Bet Shammai think that it's mutar sarat ha'ach, but they never did it halacha lemaaseh. It was only a machloket in theory. Who thinks this? Rav thinks lasu Bet Shammai kedivlehem. I thinks lasu Bet Shammai kedivlehem. So we have two Amoraim, big Amoraim, that think that the reason that Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai can actually work together is because Bet Shammai never actually did anything in the physical world, not in theory, in practice, against Bet Hillel. That's why they could marry each other. On the other hand, Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan say no. Bet Shammai did, according to their theory. They actually did. And then, of course, we have a very serious question: how could they live together if they actually did, according to their theory? So that is developed further on in the Gemara. But here, suddenly, there are a few lines in the Gemara that start to discuss Bat Kol. Let's read these lines and try to understand what's happening. Eimat, says the Gemara. אילמה קודם בת קול, מה איתה? מה דמאן דאמר לא עשו? ואלא לאחר בת קול, מה איתה? מה דמאן דאמר עשו? היא בהתאמה קודם בת קול, והיא בהתאמה לאחר בת קול, היא בהתאמה קודם בת קול, וכגון דבית הלל רובה, למאן דאמר עשו, דאה בית הלל רובה, ומאן דאמר עשו, כי אבזילת בת הרובה, אחד דחי עדן עינים, אחא בית שמיים, אחד עדי דפי. והיא בהתאמה לאחר בת קול, מאן דאמר לא עשו, נפקה בת קול, ומאן דאמר עשו, רבי יהושע דאמר אין משגיחים בבת קול. What's this bat kol? What's happening here? So first, Tosfot helps us to notice that this bat kol comes from other sugya. One of them is the sugya in Florent, and another sugya is a very, very famous sugya in Baba Metzia. The sugya in Baba Metzia is quoted here in the Gemara at the end. Rabbi Yoshua Hidamar en mashgichim bevat kol. That is a reference to the famous story Tanuro Shel Achnai in Baba Metzia Daf Mute. Now, I don't know if all of you know this story. You haven't learned this yet. We're not in Zigin yet. We're in Nashim. So let's just sum up the story quickly. There was a very big machloket between Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer was according to Shitat Bet Shammai, and there was a machloket about a tanur and a chatzer. There was a tanur, a special kind of oven. Ovens there were built, a few houses worked with the same oven. And you had a problem if you had an oven in a place where there were Chaverim and Amaretz living together in the same area, because Chaverim were careful with Tahara and Tumah, and Amaretz were not. And the question is, can they use the same oven? Why is that a problem? Because an oven cannot be tahor after it is tameh. The only way to make it tahor is to break it up. And there was a special trick to build a broken oven. That's Tanur Shlachna. It's an oven which is actually broken. It's built in a way that it's not a whole piece. Between the pieces, you have sand. And here, Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim were cholkim. According to Chachamim, this trick of building a broken oven is not a good trick. It's still considered a whole tanur, and therefore it is tameh. According to Rabbi Eliezer, this trick works. And when you have an oven built this way, it will never become tameh. And then both Amei Haaretz and Chaverim can use the same oven in the same street. That was a very, very big machloket. Chachamim said it's tameh. Rabbi Eliezer says it's tahor. And then something went wrong in this machloket, and it became very, very personal and very strong. And Rabbi Eliezer tries to prove that he's right, and he uses all kinds of proofs. And one of his proofs is, I will call heaven and have a bat call from heaven say that I'm right. So let's just read this part of the story. חזר רבי אליעזר ואמר להם, אם הלכה כמותי מן השמיים יוכיחו, יצאה בת קול ואמרה, מה לכם אצל רבי אליעזר, שהלכה כמותו בכל מקום. And then עמד רבי יהושע על רגליו ואמר, לא בשמיים היא. So this is a very, very famous quote from the story that Rabbi Eliezer tries to prove that he's right. He calls upon heaven, and Rabbi Yoshua says it's not in heaven. We decide on our own. So this is what is quoted in our sugya. There's another quotation in our sugya from a Gemara that those of you who've learned from the beginning, who've learned Eruvin, might find it familiar, and it is a favorite, very famous Gemara. 3 שנים נחלקו בית שמאי ובית הלל, הללו אומרים הלכה כמותנו, הללו אומרים הלכה כמותנו, יצא בת קול ואמרה, אלו ואלו דברי אלוהים חיים הן, והלכה כבית הלל. וכי מאחר שאלו ואלו דברי אלוהים חיים הן, מפני מה זכו בית הלל לקבוע הלכה כמותם, מפני שנוחים ועלובים היו, שונים דבריהם לדברי בית שמאי, ולא עוד, אלא שמקדימים דברי בית שמאי לדבריהם. This is a very, very, very famous Gemara that says that for 3 years, Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai were in machloket until came a voice from heaven and said that halacha is according to Beit Hillel. So we have here 2 stories which are connected to Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai and are connected to Bat Kol. And therefore, the Gemara here asks, when Rabbi Yochanan says that Beit Shammai did it according to their theory, is he talking before Bat Kol or after Bat Kol? And when Shmuel and when Rav said that they did not do according to the theory, is he speaking before Bat Kol or after Bat Kol? What is the question that is asked here? So let's go again over the Gemara and see how the question about Bat Kol is playing here in the Gemara. Bat Kol, as we saw in Eruvin, told us that we have to listen to Beit Hillel. So says the Gemara, if the machloket between Rav and Shmuel is before Bat Kol spoke, of course Bet Shammai would go according to their practice, because nobody said that you have to listen to Beit Hillel. Why shouldn't they go according to what they think? And if it's after Bat Kol, how can they do according to their theory? A voice from heaven came down and said that you cannot do anything. And then Gemara answers and says, you should know that Bat Kol does not make that much of a difference. Why? Let's say Bat Kol, a voice from heaven that came down. You still have to think that you have to go according to Beit Hillel. Why? Because Beit Hillel are Rov. And that's why the Shammai should not have listened to themselves even before Bat Kol, because they had to understand the Beit Hillel are Rov. And Bat Kol is also not something that is 100%, something that will say that halacha is according to Beit Hillel. Why? Because we learn from the story, that you don't go according to Bat Kol. And that's the end of the Gemara, that Bat Kol does not make much of a difference in either way. The Tosfot stops here and says, wait a minute. Okay, Bat Kol doesn't make a difference either way, but we have two contradicting stories. Let's read the question of the Tosfot. Ve'im tomar, u'ma yishna de lo kaim alam kebat kol de Rabbi Eliezer, אלא אמרינן בכל דוכתי דשמותי, ובין הלכה כמותו, וכבת כל דבית הלל, קיים עליו להלכה כבית הלל. Says the Tosfot, okay, the Gemara said it, but please explain. In Eruvin Bat Kol does say halacha. In Baba Kama, it's not regarded as something that proves halacha. So does a Bat Kol prove halacha or doesn't Bat Kol prove halacha? And of course, it's a very serious question. Are we regarding the voice from heaven as a voice that can tell us what to do halachically? Does it have any kind of power? Obviously, in everything it does, but then there's a stira that it doesn't in Baba Metzia. So what's Tosfot's answer? Let's see. He gives us two answers. What is the difference between Baba Metzia and Eruvin? First answer, ויש לומר, שום דבת קול דרבי אליעזר לא יצא אלא לכבודו, שאמר מן השמיים יוכיחו כדאמרינן הטה. First, says Tosfot in the first answer, you should know that Bat Kol does make a difference, and that's why you listen to it in Eruvin. So why don't you listen to the Bat Kol and Baba Metzia? Because not all of the Bnot Kol are the same. The Bat Kol and Baba Metzia did not come to say halacha. It came only to give kavod for Rabbi Eliezer. And then, of course, we have a big question. How do we know if the Bat Kol came to say halacha or if the Bat Kol coming here to give us kavod? The answer to this is, of course, the context. Says Tosfot, if you read the story, you will say that Bat Kol there only came for kavod. So you have to understand the context. So that's the first answer of the Tosfot, that Bat Kol does have power if it talks about halacha, not if it talks about kavod. Second answer of Tosfot, inami, בההיא בת קול שהייתה כנגד רבים דרבנן עבור רובה, דוודאי אין הלכה, אבל כי בת קול דבית הלל קיימה להם משום דבר בית הלל ובא אלא דבית שמאי מחדדי תפל. What do we have here? Here we have a different answer, a totally different answer by Tosfot. Tosfot here says you should know that Bat Kol does have power in halacha, but only in a very, very small way. Why? Why didn't the Bat Kol actually help Rabbi Eliezer? The Bat Kol came to say halacha. This is Tosfot in the second answer. It did try to say halachically what's true, but still you have something against this Bat Kol. You have Rov. Rabbi Eliezer is a yachid. Chachamim are Rabim. Rov is stronger than the yachid, even if this yachid has a Bat Kol. But in Eruvin, it's not a yachid mun Rabim. It's Rabim mun Rabim. It's true. The Beit Hillel are more of Rabim. They have more people there than Bet Shammai. But it's a group against a group. And the second group is also wiser than the first group. So here, Bat Kol has power to give more power to Bet Hillel. So according to the second answer of the Tosfot, Bat Kol has power, but only if it's not against a real rule. So what have we seen up here in the Tosfot? That the Tosfot takes the idea of bat kol, the supernatural voice from heaven that comes and tells us what halacha says. The first answer says, yes, it's serious. If bat kol says halacha, you have to listen to it. But the second answer says bat kol is not stronger than the rule of halacha of Rabbi. But if you have a group against a group, bat kol will have power to give the larger group more power against the smaller group, even though it is wiser. As you saw, Tosfot takes bat kol very seriously and tries to explain how it works in the halachic field. So Tosfot gave room for bat kol, but a small area of power of bat kol. Let's move to the second Tosfot, which is dealing with hardcore agada and with angels. And this is also a special Tosfot that usually we don't learn. Okay, so what's the context of the second Tosfot? As you saw, the end of the daf brings an agada, how Chachamim heard that Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinas actually was pasking according to Bet Shammai, not according to Bet Hillel, and they were surprised. They wanted to understand, is that true? He was a very old man, so they went to visit him at home. And then he told them that it's not him, it's his younger brother, that he is going according to Bet Shammai, but he thinks that you have to be pasking according to Bet Hillel. When the Chachamim come to Rabbi Dosa, so he says the word, he says this famous pasuk on one of the Chachamim. Later on in Daf Tetzai, Gemara says, wait, I want to understand this pasuk. I love this Gemara because I don't know how you feel, but this pasuk always bothers me. When we finish Birkat Hamazon and we sing, how can we say that? We know that there is a big question about Tzadik V'Ralo, Asha V'Tovlo, also in the Gemara and the Rishonim. So how come we have this pasuk in Tehillim that it's no issue because Tzadikim are always fine. And here the Gemara gives us a very interesting answer to this question. Amar Rabbi Yonatan, pasuk ze sar ha'olam amaru. Rabbi Yonatan says, this pasuk, Yael, when you say it in Birkat Hamazon, it's not you saying it. It is said by Sar Ha'olam, an angel. It is something that can be only said by a supernatural being. Amru, asked the Gemara, how did he reach this conclusion? Amru, people ask about this. Who said? Who can say this? Who can say this? Maybe the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You have to have someone like the Kadosh Baruch Hu saying this. This is only from a divine perspective. You can say, can't be Kadosh Baruch Hu, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu is not a zaken. Kadosh Baruch Hu is never a zaken, so he could not say this. Ela David Amara. Maybe it's David HaMelech that wrote it in Tehillim. No, Mikashish Kulehai. He's not old enough to say it. Ela Shma Mina Sar Ha'olam Amaru. So this Gemara tells me that this statement can only be coming from somebody who has a lot of years behind him, not a man, the divine. But of course, we have an interesting question. Who is this Sar Ha'olam? Have you ever heard of Sar Ha'olam? Who is this angel being? What is it? Who is the speaker? It's not God. It's not a man. It's Sar Ha'olam. What's this? Tosfot says, Kasha leRabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam has difficulties in understanding who's Sar Ha'olam. Why? Kasha leRabbeinu Tam. דעשה הפייט השער המשרת נער נקרא ומטטרון הנכבד והנורא, על מטטרון הוא שר העולם שנקרא נער. בפיוט אחר יסד תוקף מטטרון שר הנהפך לאש מבשר, נחמד לחנוך ומטטרון. ואי אפשר שיהיה חנוך שר העולם, בפרק אלו טרפות, אמרנו בששת ימי בראשית, פתח שר העולם ואמר, ישמח השם למעשיו, וחנוך לא היה במעשה בראשית. Wrong question of Rabbeinu Tam. Let's sum it up. Rabbeinu Tam says, there is a python. You know, there are many piyutim in our tefillah, and I didn't look up exactly which piyutim Rabbeinu Tam is talking about. Of course, this work should be done. But anyway, Rabbeinu Tam says, there is a stira between two piyutim. In one place, the piyut says that Matatron is a nar. So maybe Matatron is Sar Ha'olam because we're talking about Nar Ha'iti V'Gan Zakanti. But in another piyut, they say that Matatron was once a man. Sar hanefach le'esh mibasar, and that is Chanoch, that we have a midrash that says Chanoch in Sefer Bereshis, תלך את האלוהים בינינו, כי לקח אותו האלוהים. So why can't Metatron be Chanoch, says the Rabbeinu Tam? Maybe that's the answer. Rabbeinu says no. Metatron cannot be Chanoch because we have another Gemara that says that Sar HaOlam said this pasuk, Yismach Hashem b'ma'asav, in the first days of Bereshis. So if we say that Metatron is Sar HaOlam and is Chanoch, that doesn't work. Sar HaOlam has to be in Sheshet Yemei Bereshis. But Chanoch was much later. Chanoch was one of the children of Cain. He wasn't there in Sheshet Yemei Bereshis. So who is Sar HaOlam? If he's Metatron, but Metatron is Chanoch. But if he's Sar HaOlam, he has to be in Sheshet Yemei Bereshis. So who is this figure, Sar HaOlam? Says the Tosfot, יש לומר, מטטרון אין זה שר העולם. First of all, says the Tosfot, you should know, you have two different stories here. There is an angel called Metatron. That's true. And there's a different angel called Sar HaOlam. They're not the same being. והוא נקרא נער. Metatron is called נער. אבל, not because he said the pasuk, נער הייתי וגם זקנתי. No, only because he's called נער. So we have Metatron, which is called Nar. We have Sar HaOlam that says, I once was a Nar, and now that I'm a Zaken, I can tell you, Nar הייתי וגם זקנתי ולא ראיתי צדיק נעזב. So that's the first answer of Tosfot, taking the Agada 100% seriously and saying, when we learn Agada, we have to learn it exactly like the Gemara. We have to make sure that all the Agada work together as one piece. And therefore, we have here two beings, Metatron and Sar HaOlam. According to this, I'll add an understanding. Maybe Sar HaOlam is the world itself, not exactly an angel, but in some sense, the world itself is saying, the world was there in Sheshet Yemei Bereshis, the world will be there in the end, and only the world itself can say that it has the divine perspective that a tzaddik was never ne'ezav. Of course, no human being. So that's the first answer of Tosfot. But then Tosfot has a second answer. ועוד, דאגדות חולקות זו על זו. ובראשית רבה, שומרים חנוך מת, מתרגמינן כי לקח אותו, הם מתייתא, ובראש מסכת דרך ארץ, משמע נכנס לגן עדן בחייו. Says the Tosfot, Agadot are not like limud halacha. Agadot can be cholkot. There's a machloket in the Agada. Maybe according to one Agada, Metatron is Sar HaOlam. According to another Agada, he's not, and that doesn't scare me. It is true that the Tosfot, when he learns halacha, wants to have everything in harmony, but not when we learn Agada. So what did we see here? We saw here two Tosfots that deal with the divine. And we see that when Tosfot comes to deal with the divine, he has two different ways. One way is to say divine is exactly like halacha, will work with the same tools. But in each Tosfot that we saw, the second answer said no. Halacha, the divine, halacha and Agada don't work the same way. Either Bakol has power, but it's very low power, doesn't have absolute power, or Agada does not have to work like halacha. Agada can be cholek, and that is fine by me, says the Tosfot. So, as I said today, in honor of the finishing of the first parak, which was very hard in the beginning and ends in Agada, we did two Tosfots that deal with Agada. We see that the Tosfot calls to us to be more attentive to the fact that maybe Agada is a totally different world, which is very, very close to the world of Iyun and of Halacha, and we move from one world to the other as we learn Gemara, but we should notice that these are two different worlds with two different rules, and we should be more noticing to where exactly Agada adds, what it gives, and that will never be the same as Halacha. So I hope you enjoyed the gefet today. Take care, and we'll meet in the next parak.